Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. Susan Pierce here with Eden's Living TV. We have a guru in the house. We have Dr. Peter Goldman, who is a chiropractor and he is an expert in martial arts. I'd love to know about your style, all that kind of good jazz. So, welcome to the show, Dr. Goldman.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be here. And you mentioned two things that I love, which is healing and martial arts. So we can talk about
Yes.
anything you want.
All right, let me turn this volume up a little bit for my audience back there. And yes, I actually took keto, taekwondo, and in my healing process, I understood that the body had energy zones, like you teach, and that each emotion, each disease, each organ has a frequency, and that energy gets blocked. So I'll let you tell about your background in martial arts and how you've developed. You and Nelson Bullmash, a little shout out to him. Y'all have integrated with your chiropractic. Beautiful. Instead of breaking wrist, how you come in and release that fascia. First time he did that technique on me, and I heard my fascia go. Went, oh my gosh! And he did a rib torque that I've never had done before. I've watched your techniques, and they are incredible. So I'll turn it over to you and just tell us your background, your martial arts training, how you've incorporated the zone technique, and your zone school.
Sure. Okay. So, well, first, a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Retained some of my accent, but I lived in California for the last 20 plus years. So
You're in Berkeley, aren't you? Aren't you out of Berkeley?
I'm sitting in Berkeley right now. So yeah, so my New York accent faded a little bit. But with that said, I'll start with the healing. I'll get to the martial arts after, if that's okay.
Sure.
So when I was a kid growing up in New York, I grew up in a very naturally oriented family, which was odd at the time. I was born in 1967, so being a kid of the late 60s, early 70s, most people just were very medically oriented, went to medical doctors, etc. My For whatever reason, our family, we had three doctors. We had a naturopath, we had a chiropractor, and we had a homeopath.
Oh,
That's who,
wow.
right? I grew up with that. And if my sister and I ever needed any healing, my mom would do reflexology on us and give us homeopathy. So we kind of grew up in that kind of house.
You're fortunate.
So I agree. And I really never had any aspirations to be any kind of doctor or healer. I come from a family of business people with very successful businesses and, investment bankers and Wall Street, that kind of thing. So that was my kind of idea. And I went to college in Boston. I was an economics major. I had no intention of doing healing.
You were cum laude, may I say.
I
Congratulations.
was,
You're a
thank you,
very
yeah.
intelligent man.
I busted my ass for that. So anyway,
Yes, you did. So, congrats.
thank you. So I, graduated in Boston with an economics degree from a very intense program, studied nonstop. Anyway, plus I was a varsity athlete. I played in the tennis team for 4 years. So between being an athlete and studying, it was a very intense 4 years, but it was well worth
I
it.
was state champion tennis and martial arts. It's kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
So
state champ.
cool. So I go back to New York City where I grew up, and I worked for 4 years in business. And I love chiropractic so much, even though I had that great experience growing up with homeopathy and naturopathy. I just gravitated toward chiropractic a bit for whatever reason. So I decided, I'm going to become a chiropractor. So I went to Life College in Marietta, Georgia. And quite frankly, I did get my degree there. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, but I really didn't learn anything about healing there.
Mm-mm.
Nothing really. What I do now, I use maybe 1% of what I learned there. It just was a place to get a degree. So
Right. You
anyway,
got to get that piece of paper.
that was it. Now, when I grew up, this is an important part of the story here. When I grew up, I had a chiropractor in Brooklyn who I alluded to before, and he was a direct student of a guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet, who I'll talk about in a moment. So I grew up with him as my chiropractor. So that's just what I thought chiropractic was. I didn't know much about the bigger world of chiropractic. I just thought he represented chiropractic to me. And he did what probably at the time less than 1% of chiropractors in the world could do. But I didn't know that because I just thought that's what everyone did. Meaning most chiropractors then and now if you go to most chiropractors' offices, 99% of the people in their offices are there for neck and back pain. So if
Right.
you walk in any chiropractor's office and you say to the people in the waiting room, hey, what brings you in? Why do you go to this chiropractor? Why are you here today? Why are you in this chiropractor's office? 99% of the people in those chiropractor's offices will tell you they have neck pain or back pain or some other musculoskeletal complaint.
Mhm.
Now, it's very interesting because the first chiropractor, D.D. Palmer in 1895, he wrote a book in 1910, 15 years after he established chiropractic. And he wrote what chiropractic was. Like, in other words, he wrote a book on what chiropractic actually is.
In the
And in his
1800s.
he established it in 1895. He wrote the book in 1910 that I'm referring to. So in his book, it's about 1,000 pages. It's a big, thick book. It's like a dictionary. In the book, he says, or he writes, I would say, if the book's about 1,000 pages, I'd say 950 of them are not on musculoskeletal stuff, not on neck and back stuff. His idea was aligning the spine to open up nerve flow to heal the organs, the pancreas, the liver, the kidneys, the adrenals, the thyroid, balance the immune system. Basically, people with hardcore diseases or diseases were coming to him, and with his adjustments, they were healing. That's what chiropractic was made for. Now, on a side note, he had a few things about what he called torticollis, which is like neck pain or whatever.
Mhm.
So on a side note, he's like, oh, by the way, if you have neck or back pain, chiropractic is very good. It was a side note. So
Side
even
note.
if a chiropractor now says, oh, chiropractic is for neck and back pain, oh, but it's for so much more. It's actually the opposite. Chiropractic's not for neck and back pain. It's for every organ, every cell, every tissue in the body to heal. It just happens on a side note. If someone has neck or back pain or any musculoskeletal problem, it's good for that too. That's a side note. So it got flipped upside down. Now, so again, so here's D.D. Palmer. 98% of the people coming to him are not for neck and back pain. Now we have chiropractors in 2021. 99% of the people who come to them have neck and back pain.
Right.
So now, let's just say there's multiple kinds of chiropractors. Let's just take this one. Let's say there's a chiropractor who says, look, all I believe that chiropractic is for neck and back pain.
Mhm.
So that's what they do. And you go to their office and everyone's there for neck and back pain. And that's what they believe. And that's what they, great. Okay, good for them. But let's say there's another chiropractor who says, no, but chiropractic is for much more than neck and back pain. It's, really the brain and spinal cord is the central nervous system.
Mhm.
And when you align the spine, it opens up the flow of the nerve flow. So the brain can send the signal down the cord and you remove the interference at the nerve and then it can go to where it's going, whatever. So they say things like, hey, I'm actually a nervous system doctor. Health comes from within. The power that made the body heals the body. These kind of, right. But here's the thing. I'll still go to their office and 99% of the people there are for neck and back pain. So the speech is very eloquent to say like, hey, chiropractic's for much more than neck and back pain. I'm actually a nervous system doctor. I'll still walk right in their waiting room. I'll ask everyone there why they're there. They're all there for neck and back pain.
Yeah.
So even with a nice speech, it doesn't matter. So remember, category 1, the chiropractors just think it's for neck and back pain. Everyone comes to them for that. Category 2 is the chiropractors who will give these very eloquent speeches about how chiropractic is for wellness and this and that, but everyone's there for neck and back pain. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone practices for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, just by sheer numbers of people they're adjusting, of course, they're going to get their miracle cases here and there. Someone came in for neck pain, but they had, period cramps and the period cramps went away, or someone came in for back pain and they had asthma and then they adjusted them and their back pain went away and their asthma went away. Of course, just by sheer numbers, you're going to get that small percent of those beyond musculoskeletal healings. But in general, even the ones with the eloquent speeches, everyone's there for neck and back pain for the most part. And then, of course, there's some chiropractors that will convince, in a good way, their patients that chiropractic is for wellness and it's good to get adjusted even if you don't have neck or back pain. It's right. Fine. But here's the thing. Then there's what I do. And I have created Zone School, and any chiropractor, and for that matter, any other doctor or healer. You could be a chiropractor, a naturopath.
I'm a practitioner, a raindrop. I do post-traumatic stress. I work with vets. I would love to take your Zone School.
Yeah, so I'm gonna explain. So any doctor or healer, meaning chiropractor, naturopath, acupuncturist, medical doctor, osteopath, Reiki master, massage therapist.
Right.
If you're a doctor or healer of any type, you can join Zone School. And I'll just say real quick, zonetechnique.com, zonetechnique.com. If you go to zonetechnique.com, you can find out about Zone School. There's a thing right there to enroll in Zone School. There's another thing right there to get on a discovery call with one of my docs. If you're ready to join Zone School, but you have a couple questions, you can sign up for a discovery call. It's all there. But anyway, get back to that later. With that said, then there's Zone School. Now, come into my office. Anyone's welcome. Stop by my office. And, if you're in my area, and I welcome you to ask every patient in my office what they're there for. Say, what are you here for? Why'd you come to Dr. Pete? There's someone coming on dialysis because they want to get off dialysis. Someone in there who's on a liver transplant list. They don't want to be on a liver transplant list. They want to fix their liver. Someone who's supposed to get their gallbladder removed. They don't want to get it out. Someone whose gynecologist told them they need a hysterectomy. They don't want a hysterectomy. Someone who has, adrenal fatigue, thyroid, this. That's what I do. That's what I do. So
I actually saw you work with a gentleman out of Mississippi. He flew and was only there for like a 48-hour period, and you did 3 adjustments on him. If I remember correctly,
trigeminal neuralgia. Yeah, right. I remember that, because what happened was, what she's referring to is a guy, well, actually, a patient of mine told me like her uncle had trigeminal neuralgia. They wanted to do brain surgery on him. So they flew out to see me. And as you mentioned just now, my patient's like, oh, can I just film it? I want to kind of document this. So she was like in my office filming it and then filming
and
him.
that's how I discovered you.
Right. So that's what that was. So with that said, so if someone comes to my office, they're going to see that. No, don't get me wrong. I have people who come to me who are supposed to get disc surgery in their neck, their back. They've been to 5 chiropractors, medical doctors. No one can fix them. We fix them up like that. So if they do have a musculoskeletal issue, there's no better place to be. Okay, now, the next thing I want to point out. So I would say, I think you'd agree with me, that most chiropractors, most naturopaths, most medical doctors, their patient base, the people who come to see them, probably live within about a 45-minute radius of their office. Probably. Now, I'm sure they have some exceptions. They have this one patient who loves them. They live 2 hours away. They drive, whatever. But I have right now right around 200 patients. Of course, I have way more than 200 patients, but 200 of my patients live 4 hours away, 3 hours away, 5 hours away.
You have international. I believe you had someone fly in.
Well, right, we have people flying in from 25 different countries. We've had over the years people fly in from 25 different countries and cities. So people have flown to me from New York, Chicago, Hawaii, Guam, Japan, Europe. So if you think about it, not 45-minute, no, people are flying in from all over the world. And these are people who are not saying, oh, Pete, I'm going to be in your area. I figure I'll just check you out. No, these are people with no reason to be there, but they fly in for a week of care, driving 10 hours or 8 hours in a day for 2 minutes. The session takes 2 to 3 minutes. So that should tell you something. If people are flying
told me, I was impressed. I was like, I've got to have you, and I'm going to come fly see you. Trust me, when I get ahead, I have some Berkeley friends that are in the anti-vaxxer movement. I'm going to come see you. Good. I need some help, Doc.
Anytime. So again, people, I mean, I worked Wednesday night was the last time I was in my office. We had 2 women who drove 5 hours each way. First visit, my first visit's like 10 minutes. My visits after that are 2 or 3 minutes. So they drove 10 hours for 10 minutes. We had a guy who drove 4 hours each way for 2 minutes. He was 3 minutes, a regular patient. So that's one thing. And I also mentioned the kind of things that come into me. Not to mention, not to discount the musculoskeletal. This one woman pops in my head, so I'm going to mention her. She had a very bad neck condition. She had an MRI, X-rays, 2 chiropractors, one of which I know, it's actually a good chiropractor, one of which I know, looked at her MRIs and X-rays and said, we're not touching this neck. This is beyond chiropractic. And 2 surgeons said, you need neck surgery. She came, her neck's fine. She was in pain all the time, no pain. She's fine. She's 70 years old, completely fine. So whether it's musculoskeletal or non-musculoskeletal. Now, listen, obviously, let's make this clear. I'm a chiropractor. I don't treat disease. I don't diagnose disease. I don't treat symptoms. Of course, I balance the body so it can heal itself. But let's pause here. This is important. Any chiropractor says that. Any chiropractor says, "Oh, I clear subluxations, the power that made the body heals the body." Yeah. The difference is the way the zone technique balances the body. It
Right.
lets someone get off a liver transplant list. There's no chiropractors adjusting subluxations and getting people off liver transplant lists. But if you know the zone technique, you can do that. So that's pretty much just a general summary of the healing stuff. And again, zonetechnique.com. We have about 1,000 members in Zone School at the moment. I think about 90% of them are chiropractors, but I do teach these principles of healing to naturopaths, acupuncturists, Reiki masters, which they use very successfully. So that's that. And I'm happy to continue to talk about healing, and or if you want to segue over to martial arts, I'm happy to.
Okay, we can segue, but quickly, can we talk about the zones and the different zones that, like, your hormones, or this zone is for your
Sure. Okay. The
immune
6
system?
zones.
Because
Yeah, sure.
let's
The
tell
six.
what a zone is. What are they like? What is she talking about? A zone? What are they talking
Excellent.
about?
Excellent. So the brain, okay, I actually, this is a good time for me to mention Dr. Fleet, who I alluded to for a
Okay.
second. So Dr. Thurman Fleet was a chiropractor who practiced in San Antonio, Texas in the 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. Now, I would say with great confidence, he was the greatest chiropractor who ever lived. Now, let's just say someone says, "Oh, I don't think so. I like BJ Palmer or Clarence Gonstead," or I don't care. I mean, who cares? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he wasn't the greatest chiropractor ever. It doesn't matter. Everything else I'm saying on this show, I'm very confident in saying. What I'm saying is the greatest chiropractor ever. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty
You're
certain
not
of that.
wrong very often.
So I just want to say, and by the way, anyone who wants to can go to drthurmanfleet.com. That's drthurmanfleet.com, drthurmanfleet.com, and read about him. One of the greatest healers of the last 2,000 years. Anyway, I mean, listen, people came to him with leukemia.
I've got a fly, so if you see me doing this, I have a
No
fly
problem.
right at my face. So
No
I'm doing
problem.
a little martial arts.
No problem. People came to Dr. Fleet with leukemia and he got fixed in 2 weeks. Who does that? Who does that? Who people came to Dr. Fleet with leukemia who were given like 2 months to live, and 2 weeks later they're all better. Who's doing that? So
No one.
Of course. So that he was in his own category. With that said, he created in 1931 something called zone therapy. Now, I was taught 25 or so years ago, I was taught zone therapy by 4 of his disciples. I spent over 100 hours with all 4 of these guys. So I spent 600 hours one-on-one total with these guys, or something like that, 500 hours. So I learned zone therapy way back in the day, in the early 1990s. I took, I had what I learned from them. I've also studied a lot of other healing things and a lot of other metaphysical things. And I kind of put all that together and created Zone Technique and then opened Zone School. Now, Zone Technique is very similar to Zone Therapy, but there's some major differences. If anyone looks at Dr. Fleet's book, Dr. Fleet wrote a book of what Zone Therapy was, and they see what I'm teaching as Zone Technique, there are many, many differences, although it had a huge influence on what became Zone Technique. And then, like I said, Dr. Fleet was a great teacher of metaphysics, which has had a huge effect on me. And I've been studying metaphysics since I'm 16 years old. So I've had a lot of influences in healing, metaphysics, etc. So with that said, Dr. Thurman Fleet did things that, it's almost unbelievable unless you are aware of the validity of these things.
Right.
For one thing, when Dr. Fleet was open for business in San Antonio, the police had to reroute traffic patterns in order to accommodate the people coming to his office. What does that tell you?
That's incredible. He was known as a healer.
That would be putting it lightly. He was known as I think one of the greatest healers of the last couple thousand years. So anyway, so he taught several people. I learned from them. He's the greatest. I love him. So that's that. He did say the brain is divided up into 6 parts. I mean, the brain's divided up into a lot of stuff, but one of the ways he looked at the brain was the center in the brain that controls the glands, the center in the brain that controls the eliminative system, the center in the brain that controls the nervous system, the center in the brain that controls the digestive system, the muscle system, and the circulatory system. Those are the 6 systems or 6 zones. He said the brain is like the positive pole, the spinal cord is like the negative pole. So when there's points in the back of the head, there are occipital fibers that tell you what's happening in the brain centers. Now, by the way, in case any SOT practitioners of chiropractic are watching this live or later, and they're like, oh, we do occipital palpation.
I saw you do that. That was
Right.
with one of the gentlemen with the neuralgia, I believe.
Right,
And I was
right.
like, he didn't even adjust. You just went in and
Well,
tapped that zone.
well, actually, yeah. So actually, just a couple of things. Let me address that in a second, but I just want to say about the SOT. So SOT, which is a very nice technique in chiropractic. In fact, we have many, many, many SOT docs as members of Zone School. They have 7 points across and 3 levels. That's 21 points. Zone technique has 6 points across. So they're different points. Not to mention those 21 points tell vastly different things than the zone points. The zone points are telling what's happening in these brain centers, which is the positive pole. And there's certain points in the negative pole, which we stimulate through adjustments, or if you're not a chiropractor, there's other ways to stimulate it. And when you stimulate the negative pole, it resets the positive pole, and now the brain is sending out the right signals to the body. And again, the back of the head to feel it before and after the adjustment, that's just analytical. The actual healing part is in the spinal cord. Now, this brings me to an important part. The zone technique is a spinal cord stimulation technique to heal the brain. It is not an intersegmental bone moving technique. Now, why is this important? And even though you're not a chiropractor, it doesn't matter. I can explain this to you totally. So check this out.
But I'm tracking with you because I play one on TV.
Well, anyone listening to this can understand what I'm saying, whether they're a chiropractor or not. So chiropractic, this is important. Chiropractic has this idea that here's the brain, here's the spinal cord, here's the nerves that come out of the spinal cord that go to the cells in the body. So the chiropractic, it's called the safety pin cycle, but doesn't matter. They believe that the brain's sending out signals down here, and then if there's bones out of place over here, it interferes with a signal out to the cells. So what they want to do is they want to find what they call subluxations, and they want to put these bones in place. So now the brain can send its signal out, now unimpinged because they put the bone back in place, and the brain can send the signal to the cells.
It's all about letting your universal chi energy flow, and where it gets blocked in the body is dis-ease, is disease.
Right, but here's the problem, and here's why chiropractors can't get people off liver transplant lists unless they learn from me. Here's why chiropractors, if someone's supposed to get a hysterectomy, they're not going to prevent it unless they learn in Zone School. The reason is this: what if you're successful at finding bones out of place? What if you are, and you put them in place, and then you've now opened up the brain signal to the cells? Okay, but what if the brain signal's wrong in the first place? What if their brain is in balance? What if
it's sending out the wrong signals? Like with fibromyalgia, it's pain.
So what if the brain's sending out the wrong signal? So big deal. So you put the bone in place, so you're letting this wrong signal go to the cells. That's why plenty of people get adjusted. They're still sick. Now, chiropractors say subluxation is the cause of disease. Really? Are you sure about that? I mean, listen, I love chiropractic. I'm a chiropractor, but when chiropractors say that subluxation is the cause of disease, did they ever think twice when they said that? Is that so? Really? Acupuncturists don't relieve subluxations. Right. They don't x-ray the body. They don't check the spine. They don't put so-called atlas or other bone subluxations back in place. They look at the tongue, they feel the pulse, they put needles in to open the meridians. It's been around for 4,000 years. They're doing just fine. They're not relieving any subluxations. Ayurvedic medicine out of India, it's been around for 4,500 years. They don't care about subluxations. They're not looking at the spine. They give herbs, they give vitamins, dietary advice. They're fixing people left and right. And the list goes on and on and on. Homeopathy, Christian Science, all kinds of stuff. So when chiropractors say that, they should really think twice, but it doesn't make a difference. So the thing is this: with the zone technique, we're actually determining which brain centers don't work. We're fixing the brain centers by stimulating the cord. Now the brain can send the right signal out and go to the cells. And that's why we're able to get these unparalleled results. And here's the thing. This is important. If someone's talking about, for example, let's say there's a political debate, let's just say that someone loves Trump and someone else loves Biden. and they are going to argue now about politics. This person will tell the person, oh my God, how could you vote for Biden? I don't even understand that. And they'll explain why. And the person who voted for Biden will say, how could you ever have voted for Trump? I don't even understand how you could do that. And they'll explain their point, and they'll have a discussion. Maybe it will be a friendly discussion. Maybe it will be an unfriendly discussion. Maybe one of them will convince the other one, or whatever. But as you can see, it's a very abstract topic. It's hard to kind of concretely grasp onto facts that will prove one side.
Right.
But healing ain't like that. Healing is very concrete
Yes.
because if someone's like, Pete, wait, I met this woman in your waiting room. She said she was on a liver transplant list. No one could help her. She went to you, you balanced her body. She went back to the doctor. They said, no, your liver is completely healed. You're off the liver transplant list. I met another woman in your waiting room, Pete. She was told she needed her gallbladder out. She was getting gallbladder attacks. She said she came to you X amount of times, never got a gallbladder attack again, had her gallbladder examined, totally healthy, never got it out.
I need to send you somebody. Somebody's about in 2 weeks, get a gallbladder, and I
No
had
problem.
mine out, and I regret it
Hey,
because
of
we
course,
need our
of
gallbladder.
course. So with that said, these are concrete results that unless you're in zone school, you're not getting. So someone could say, I love upper cervical, I love SOT, I love AK. I'm glad that you love them. But instead of having a debate about this chiropractic technique versus this chiropractic technique, or this chiropractic philosophy versus this chiropractic, let's just see the results. Results are
Right.
results. They trump everything. So that is the confidence by which zone school exists. Much of it is due to the results. I mean, you can't argue with the results. So that's that. Now, as far as martial arts goes,
I was
I don't
about
know
to
if
say,
you want
how
to.
did you integrate? Because we're taught as artists, it's all about flow of energy. I follow your Instagram because I watch your master. Y'all were doing the wrist lock, and I just taught that to the guy's daughter that I'm dating and her boyfriend. I talked about the thumbs and the twisting and the coming back in here. And I go on your Instagram, it was like, oh, that master is wonderful. I don't know who your master is, but I love his energy.
He's great. So with that said, so interesting. Now, here it's an interesting thing. Now, I'm a lifelong martial artist, but I'm really going to shift gears now from healing to martial arts, because this
Okay.
is what I want to say. I'm not saying that understanding martial arts can't help one as a healer, because it can. Nelson is a good example.
Yeah, me,
Nelson,
I understand energy.
right. Nelson has used, from what I understand from watching your video with him, he has used much of his martial arts knowledge. He altered it just a bit to apply it to healing. And then he's combined it with his vast healing knowledge. And it's only helped him be a more and more amazing healer. So can
Right.
it be applied? Absolutely. That's number one. Number two, has my martial arts experience trickled into, you know, what I understand and what I've done and what I've created in zone school? Probably. And I'm also happy to talk about martial arts in the, we can move into that. I just want to say one thing though. A lot of people in zone school have asked me, hey Pete, I've never done martial arts. It's obviously a big part of your life. Maybe I should do martial arts because it will help me be a better healer. And I say, no, don't. I say, look, Dr. Fleet, we already said one of the greatest healers of all time. He didn't do martial arts that I know of. D.D. Palmer, I don't think he was a martial artist. I don't think Jesus was a martial artist. He seemed to
No,
heal
no.
pretty good. So I'm just trying to say that look, if someone wants to join martial arts because they want to join it, go ahead and do it. And if it helps you in your healing, great. But is martial arts necessary to be a great healer? Absolutely not, as we've just referenced, these great healers who were not martial artists. So again, has my martial art experience trickled into who I am and what I've created in zone school? Probably, but it's not necessary. Now, with that said, my martial arts experience is this, since we asked that at the beginning. When I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, it was a very dangerous neighborhood. Anyone who's familiar with New York in the 70s and early 80s, it was a freaking war zone.
It
So,
was.
and it was very interesting because Brooklyn was an interesting place then. Because, for example, if you live like in LA, you could be in a very nice, safe neighborhood in LA right here. And there's a very dangerous neighborhood in LA here, but they're about 25 miles apart. So you could be in this very safe neighborhood in LA. You'd have to get in your car and drive 25 miles to be in a treacherously dangerous neighborhood in LA.
Right.
Now, when I grew up in Brooklyn, Brooklyn was not like that.
Mm-mm.
You could be on a block with beautiful houses and beautiful buildings owned by millionaires. Being a millionaire meant something back then. Now being a millionaire doesn't mean much, but you know,
Mm-mm.
back then, if you're a millionaire, anyway. So you could be on a house. It should be on a. You could be on a block with houses owned by millionaires, and you could literally walk 2 blocks and be in one
Mm-hmm.
of the worst neighborhoods in America. So growing up
You
in that kind
Upper
of,
East Side, Harlem, Upper East Side. Which
well, that's Manhattan. What you're
so you
talking
were on
about
the
is
other
Manhattan.
side.
I'm from Brooklyn. It's a
Oh,
different
you're
borough.
from Brooklyn. Okay.
So anyway, but all of New York, all 5 boroughs were pretty rough at that time. But anyway, certainly my area was. So I just started martial arts when I was about 10, just to for self-preservation. And when I was about 16, I got very lucky. I wanted to find a really hardcore school. So I looked in the yellow pages because I was a senior in high school. It was 1984, 1985. There was no internet yet. So I looked in the yellow pages.
You were my age. Aren't you glad we didn't have the internet back then? I'm just saying.
It was fun.
Thank you, Jesus.
So I found this martial arts school just by coincidence, really. But I didn't know that I stumbled into the dojo of probably, and anyone can Google him or look at his Wikipedia, probably one of the greatest martial artists.
He is amazing.
Yeah.
He can
Well, no,
just
you
touch
haven't.
you.
Right. Well, that's right. So the guy you saw is a little different, but the guy I'm talking about, this is way back in the day. He's not, this guy's, my teacher's not alive anymore, but he was from Japan. His name was Soshu Shigeru Oyama. And anyone who just Google Shigeru, Shigeru, hope I spelled that right. Oyama, Oyama, Shig, anyway, Shigeru Oyama, just, and then Kyokushin, Kyokushin. Shigeru Oyama, Soshu is like a title, so Soshu, Soshu Shigeru Oyama, Kyokushin. And he's a renowned martial arts master. He happened to be in Manhattan, which is very close to my house in Brooklyn.
And he like a
And
6th degree or 8. He's way up there in
he
degree.
was 10th degree when he passed away. Right. But there's plenty of 10th degrees that don't know shit. They can't fight for shit. They just give himself a 10th degree. He was a dangerous dude in a good way.
Yeah.
Here's the difference though. In Kyokushin karate, many karate styles, if you go to their dojo, like Shotokan or Ishinryu,
Aikido, Taekwondo.
right. Well, right. Those are Korean ones, Hapkido and Taekwondo. But when you spar, there's some kind of rule set which is almost like a game of tag. Like if anyone saw the movie Karate Kid, like it's like if you hit, it's like you get a point. It's like tag. It's no one's really getting knocked out. But in Kyokushin, when you fight, you're trying to knock each other out. It's
Oh,
real fighting.
crap.
Real fighting. So you could be in the dojo, and when it's time to fight, in every class or every week, people just get knocked out and dragged out. I mean, that's how rough his dojo was.
All I can think about is pituitary damage when you tell me that. I'm like, there's pituitary.
Who knows? I'm just telling you what happened. I was only 16. I didn't know what was going on. So, I mean, when I started, I didn't really understand about stuff. I got lucky. I came out pretty good.
There's no accidents. You were meant to find him.
With that said, I just given you the rule set. When you're sparring, it was legal. You could grab someone's head and knee them in the face, full blast for a knockout. You knock their teeth out, whatever. That's how rough this dojo is. I'm just telling you, this is a very, very, very rough dojo. And in Japan, Kyokushin is known as, they call it Kyokushin, the strongest karate. Now, most boxers or other, even street fighters, when they hear, oh, this guy's a black belt in karate, like, I could care less. He's a black belt in karate. I'll destroy him.
Kick his butt,
right.
Yeah.
Right, but Kyokushin, like, oh, Kyokushin, it's not regular when you hear like karate. So anyone, and by the way, just Google Kyokushin, or a good thing is just Google Kyokushin knockouts on YouTube. You'll see.
I will go look that up after, because I love martial arts.
Good. So anyway, so I'm just saying, so that was my style, and then I ended up becoming a fighter for him. I fought all around the world with him for his team, and I trained there 6 days a week, several
You're a
hours a day.
bad man. There's not many people in the world I'm scared of. I think I would be terrified of you if I met you in an
I'm very gentle.
aggressive way.
I'm very
You'd kick
gentle.
my butt.
But anyway, so that's Kyokushin. Now, I just want to say one thing I learned from him, which is really powerful, and I want to explain it. So this story I've told before once or twice, but I want to tell it here because I think it's worthwhile. Let's just say that someone goes to and by the way, I'm not promoting Kyokushin. I'm not saying people should do martial arts. I'm just telling you what I did. I mean,
We're
you just
just
asked me what I
talking.
did. That's my evolution. That's part of what I was doing. So just telling you, I'm not saying it was good. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying anything. I'm just answering the question.
It's your background. Yeah.
Right. With that said, um, let's just say there was a talk. Let's say there was a talk at like a Zen center. Not to say that Zen is, I love Zen actually, not to say that Zen centers are not great. Let's say there was a talk at a Zen center and we went and the Zen teacher was talking about your mind and how to control your mind and use your mind. Not to say that he or she is not giving a great talk, but there's no real evidence behind it. There's no real proof. It's just someone talking about the mind. You don't know
Right.
if they're really capable of using, like, you don't know. But when you do extreme training like I did, you have to at some point use your mind because you're already up against guys who are training 6, 7 days a week like you, who are tough as nails, who are spectacular fighters. At some point, there's a little bit of the mind that has
Right.
to take over or become very significant. So I want to tell the story. So one time I was in the dojo and we were training. It was the dojo was closed. It was just a special training for the fighters, the fight team. There was only about 4 of us. We were fighting like the best Kyokushin fighters in the world, in Japan and Europe and the United States. So we were training one night and I got punched very hard in the chin, and I kind of fell on my hands and knees because I bit my tongue. And I was on my hands and knees, and there was a lot of blood coming out of my mouth. And I remember it was very dark. The blood was like, for whatever reason, I don't know if that's from the tongue or whatever, but the blood was very dark. So I'm sitting there, my hands and knees, there's blood pouring out of my mouth. And then I rolled on my back and I was just kind of resting there. I remember thinking because in my school, there was never an excuse for anything. Like there was no such thing as an excuse. You couldn't the only valid excuse you could have is that you were dead. There was no other
Yeah.
valid excuse. So
Ours too.
we were trained not to make excuses. You couldn't make excuses. So I remember laying on my back and my teacher was in the room and I knew he was going to walk over to me. And I remember thinking, man, this is going to be one of those only times he's going to say, wow, I see you're severely hurt. Why don't you go in the locker room, take a shower, clean yourself up, and just sit this one out. And I remember laying on my back and feeling really resting. I felt relaxed and rested, even though there was blood all over the place. And I was relieved because I figured this was going to be a time to rest. And he came over, he looked at me. All the blood was my back of my head, all over the place. And he looked at me, he goes, "You're okay, get up." And I had such a reverence for him. And again, if you look him up and see who he was, I mean, I just felt this jolt of energy go through my body. I got up and I was fighting again. There was blood all over the place. But the point is, I felt the mind. I felt the mind because I felt all the energy drain out of my body before then. And then just him saying, "You're all right, get up, fight." I was like a
Mind
bolt of
never mattered.
like
We were
like a
always
bolt of
taught to push through the pain. There's no such. My master used to say, "Pain is an illusion."
that's good.
Illusion.
Yeah. So that's that. Now, when I finished Kyokushin, I stopped training in that. I mean, I've trained over the years in Kyokushin here and there. I later, in around 2002-ish, took up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since then. Sometimes on and off, but you know,
That's
most
more close fighting practices in which
grappling. It's
and
choking,
blocking.
it's choking, arm breaking, leg breaking. It's grappling with submissions. Now, obviously, you don't want to choke someone to sleep or break their arm and leg. If they tap, you let them go, but you get them in these submissions. So I got a black belt also, not only in Kyokushin, but I got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Wow.
And I think when you saw some of the things on Instagram, me and my jiu-jitsu teacher were showing a couple things
Yeah,
just for
the
fun.
rest, the lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's always been just hobby jiu-jitsu for me. I just like it, it's fun. Um, and more recently, I've learned some other um, interesting martial arts just for fun also. So anyways, that's the martial art update
I
and how it.
love how you've taken what you were taught as a child for mental focus, understanding pressure points, because when we hit, we go for the pressure points, using that breath work. This all culminates of how you and Nelson now heal through that modality instead of breaking bones or wrists or elbows. You learn how to put them back in place. So I was so impressed with watching your zone technique. Tell them again how they can find you, how they can find you on Instagram, Facebook, and your website and your phone number.
Sure. So first of all, first and foremost, oh yeah, I should have said this before. I'm glad you reminded me. So first and foremost, I'll repeat one part, then I'll add a new thing. If you are a chiropractor, naturopath, acupuncturist, Reiki master, massage therapist, if you're a doctor or healer of any type and you want to join Zone School, go to
Mhm.
zonetechnique.com. Go to zonetechnique.com. It says right on the thing, join here. You join. You get once you join, you get immediate access to 50. That's 50, about 50, 50 hours of me teaching you, 8 of which are live on Zoom calls with.
Wow.
So you can ask me questions. You have 8 hours to ask me questions. So that's that. You'll become a master healer. That's number one. Oh, and by the way, I've had many high-level chiropractors who were already high-level AK, SOT, upper cervical,
Mhm.
functional medicine, chiropractic neurology say, hey, Pete, I was practicing 25 years. I was one of the best AK docs in the country. Now I'm in Zone School for 3 months. And I realized everything I knew about healing before was like nursery school
It's
compared to what
true.
you're teaching me. I've heard that hundreds of times. But anyway, so, but let's say you're a chiropractor or a doctor or healer who is ready to join Zone School, but you have a couple questions. You can go to zonetechnique.com and click on set up discovery call. You set up a discovery call. You get in the call with Dr. Nate, who's a great zone doctor and helps me out in Zone School. He'll answer your questions. And if you want to join, you can join. And then lastly, if you are a layperson, you're a layperson, you would like to experience the zone technique from a certified zone technique practitioner, you also go to zonetechnique.com and there's something there called directory. And you go to the directory, you put in your zip code, you put in the radius of miles or whatever, you follow the directions, and you'll find yourself a practitioner.
That's
Um,
amazing.
as far as Instagram, I think it's at the SF Goldman, like at and then THESF, like San Francisco, then Goldman, like my last name, at the SF Goldman, I think is my Instagram. I think it is. And then I
And do
think
you
the
have a
zone,
phone number if they want to come see you as a doctor and they want
oh
to know,
yeah,
like,
so
I'm coming out to see you as soon as I get money?
yeah, so I just want to say if they want to find the Zone School Facebook page, not the group. Once you join Zone School, we have a private Facebook group
Mhm.
you can enter only for Zone School members. But the Zone School Facebook page, I think it's just at Zone School on Facebook. And then if anyone wants to make an appointment with me, they want to come and see me for healing, they can just go to my website, which is sfgoldman.com. That's SF like San Francisco, Goldman like my last name.com. And you can, all appointments are booked online. So don't call, don't email, just book your appointment
So much.
online if you want to come.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Pete. And I just think what you do is amazing. I'm going to be referring a lot of my clients to you. At every practitioner I interview, I'm going to put a little bird in their ears like they need to check you out. You and Nelson Bullmash are rocking my
I
world.
love
And
Nelson. Nelson's the
thank
greatest.
you. I love Nelson. If I could clone Nelson, I'd clone Nelson. He
Nelson's
is
the greatest.
getting my
Nelson's the
thoracic
greatest.
open. He's amazing. So thank you so much for coming to Eden's Living TV, guys. Remember, you can heal one bite, one thought, one prayer at a time. We are our thoughts. Y'all have a great day. And remember, if you're sick, you can heal. I promise. Y'all have a great day.